Does it really matter how your medical cannabis medicine is produced and grown? That's what we'll discuss today on MCPA TV. Today, I have a wonderful friend of mine, Mr. Steve Merritt, who is the Chief Operating Officer at Southern Sky Brands located in Canton, Mississippi. And one thing that I've grown to love about Steve is any time that he talks about medical cannabis, he really talks about it as though it's medicine, because it really is. And as most of you know, my son's life was changed when we took him to Colorado and got him medical cannabis, and it took him off of 17 pharmaceutical prescriptions that he had to take multiple times a day. And so we have seen Austin's quality of life return, but I've also seen the quality of life of thousands of other patients return. And so we're super excited that Steve and Southern Sky Brands are going to be producing some of the best medicine that patients can get. But I wanted Steve to tell us a little bit about Southern Sky Brands,
Sure.
And then we'll talk more about the cleanliness of the products.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us. We're
Absolutely.
very honored to be here and very honored to be associated with the Mississippi Patients Alliance. We really believe in it and really believe it's a good organization, and I really think everybody ought to join it. That being said, on the food industry, this is where I came from. I built food facilities, and I just got, I had to learn FDA, USDA regulations. So originally I was vice president of a company that was building cannabis facilities. I met these guys, we got to talking, and everything lined up. Who they are and the way they operate their business just struck a chord with me. Who I was and what I was about struck a chord with them. And we decided to come on as Chief Operating Officer. I've been doing food facilities, working with FDA, USDA for a long time. Because of that commitment that I had, I got in touch with Leslie, that you've met, from Focus, Foundation for Unified Standards in Cannabis Industry. So I met Leslie, and Leslie had a 501(c) corporation, much like you. And one of the things was she was really committed to bringing safe products and to medical cannabis. And it struck a chord. These guys, when we got together with Southern Sky, we just made a real commitment that we were going to be very committed to medicine, not just growing marijuana. Nothing wrong with that. I have no problems. If you want to use cannabis for recreational use, I have no issues with that whatsoever. But we took a different tack. We were very, very focused on medicine, not only medicine, but also the research of medicine. I built a lot in the food industry. I also built a lot of clean rooms for drug facilities. So I saw all of their operating procedures. And it just made sense to me to take what I had learned in the food and the pharmaceutical industry and those clean rooms, take that technology and bring it into the cannabis industry. And that's kind of what we've done. We've taken a very, very medical approach to not only cultivating and growing, but also processing. And then also, I think the same thing on our sales side. We want to be incredibly educational and let people understand the real science and medicine that we know is in the cannabis product.
Yeah. Well, just research shows that it is real medicine, and we have so many stories of patients having so much success with it. And so, an analogy that I often use when we talk about why should a medical cannabis cultivation center or processing center be GMP certified? But, I think back and, my can of Campbell's soup is produced in a GMP certified facility.
Absolutely.
And so, we're talking about medicine for sick people. So it is really important to me that the Mississippi patients get safe, clean medicine. And GMP certification is one way that we can ensure that.
Correct.
So tell us a little bit about some of the steps that y'all have to take to be GMP certified. Sure. And what that really means, because most of us, I had to look it up at one point too. I was like, I don't know what the GMP is, but I understand the importance of it because it's cleanliness.
So GMP, let's first define, I didn't understand what it was either when I first got into it, because the food industry had FDA and USDA regulations, which is the world that I lived in. When I first heard of GMP, I thought it was more about how to build the whole apparatus around building, the structure and everything else. And it is that, but it's also a lot more. Right now, C, the little c, and GMP is good manufacturing practices. What that means is basically we're going to have standard operating procedures for everything that you're doing. I mean, from the time you get a seed and you're planting it in the ground, there is a standard operating procedure for doing that. Cutting clones, anything that we're doing that's plant touching or processing or even in packaging, all of that has to be certified that we are good manufacturing practice, start to finish. And it's also then basically guaranteeing that we have a third party come in who looks at us and gives us not only the recommendations for corrective action if they see somebody doing something that isn't up to those standards. So we then take that, write it in our standards book, and from now on, everybody has to do that same procedure. In making medicine, you want repeatable processes so you can get the end result always the same. If you're a customer, if you're a patient, and you're needing cannabis, let's say a cannabis oil for Parkinson's. Well, what you're needing may be completely different from someone who's in chronic pain management, or like Austin, who's coming out of a debilitating illness that has to have something else instead of opioids to work. Well, you want Austin using good, certified, quality, medical grade stuff. At least I would for my son. I know you as a mom do.
For sure.
Any other patient in Mississippi ought to be able to be guaranteed that they know for a fact, if the state has approved this, we know that it's certified and it's clean. It's not going to have heavy metals, which is a huge issue. Heavy metals are awful for our bodies. So you can smoke that and get it in your lungs. You can eat that and get it in your system. It's just not good. So especially even on the processing side, the processing side's got can have a lot of chemicals. Well, if you don't get all those chemicals out, if you don't clean that product up, you can hurt people, and we don't want that.
That's right. I even heard a story of, it matters as to even to what type of stainless steel that you use, the grade of it, because, it can release some rust and all back into the products. And so, the heavy metals are something that's a big problem for most every American, and it was so for our son, for Austin.
Yeah.
And so we had to be very careful that he got, really clean medicine. And that was, when we went to Colorado, we knew that we were getting clean medicine because there was a COA with it.
Right.
And, it proved that this was safe and effective medicine for him.
I'll give you a real good example about why it's important to build a facility right, to make the building correctly. I was in a facility in New Hampshire 8-9 years ago, and this same facility had been growing cannabis for a long time. They had it tested and never had a problem. And then it came back, one of their samples came back testing for heavy metals. Nobody could figure it out. We went in, and the facility didn't have an insulated ceiling, and so the roofing nails had come down. When you're dealing with cannabis and growing, you have a lot of moisture, you have a lot of air movement, and that if you have a temperature inversion in a building, Mississippi, it's 109 degrees outside, it's 70 degrees inside. That's a big temperature difference. And so it can draw moisture to it. And that's what happened in this one. They drew moisture. All the nails that were in the roof were sweating. It was dropping down into the soil. Cannabis is an accumulator plant, meaning it will suck to itself anything that's in its environment, in the atmosphere and in the soil. And it started drawing that heavy metal in. They couldn't figure it out. Same thing happened in Las Vegas last year. We had this big drought in Las Vegas. If you haven't heard, look it up. Same plant, grown outdoors. It had grown the same plot, and that tap root went deeper because of the root. For 3 years, they'd never have heavy metal contamination. After the 4th year of the drought, the plant was sending its root a little bit deeper, and 3 feet down, that had metal in that ground way underneath there. And it sucked it up to itself, and it failed. They'd never failed before and couldn't figure it out. So all of those things that's dangerous stuff. You have heavy metal in cannabis and you're consuming it, it's bad. So there's a lot of reasons why the state regulates this. There's a reason why the health department is doing inspections, is because they're coming out to make sure that people are doing it correctly, or should be anyway.
That's right. Well, it's just so important, again, for our patients to get safe, clean medicine. And, we hope that every company will, step up and, follow suit of Southern Sky Brands and want to produce safe, clean medicine for our patients, because it really is medicine. It works. It's going to help over 147,000 patients in our state. And, and I think that's a pretty conservative number, in fact, there. And so, I want people to understand that it is just critically important that our facilities are growing under these conditions, these high standards like Southern Sky Brands is. Thank you so much, Steve, for joining us. And I thank you, our viewers, for watching MCPATV. For more information about the Mississippi Cannabis Patients Alliance, go to our website, follow us on social media, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and share this informative video with your friends and family. Thank you so much again for joining MCPA TV.